4, and thank you for taking a good look at the news with me today. And of course, I'm going to start off with New York City news, and unfortunately there's been a lot of gun violence out here. So recently, a driver was gunned down on Washington Bridge. Not only that, 2 other shootings overnight. Police are investigating 3 more shootings that happened overnight just here in New York City. 3 people were shot around 2:15 a.m. during a fight in Jamaica, Queens. 1 person was taken to the hospital and they are in critical condition. The others were listed in stable. Police also responded to shots fired around 12:40 a.m. in Times Square. No one was injured, but it did startle some tourists in the crossroads of the world. Around the same time, a driver was gunned down on the Washington Bridge, connecting Washington Heights with the Bronx. Investigators say that 4 people drove up on dirt bikes and fired into the man's car, causing him to crash. The suspects then stole his vehicle, which has since been recovered. The man was hospitalized in serious condition, but has been upgraded to stable. These latest shootings are part of a growing number of violent incidents, with more than 900 shooting victims already this year. Lives in the city's economic recovery are at risk. The NYPD is responding with new initiatives, trying to determine what works. The latest involves assigning an additional 100 officers to address the weekend violence in the Bronx, where a 13-year-old was killed in a gang-related shooting. And next there are 3 wanted in cinder block throwing, crate chucking robbery of duo in New York City. Police are looking for 3 men who robbed a duo in the Bronx in a cinder block heaving, plastic crate flinging attack that sent both victims to the hospital last week. The 47 and 25-year-old victims were standing on Southern Boulevard shortly after 3 a.m. July 7th when the trio approached them. That was according to the police, and one of the suspects grabbed a piece of cinder block and threw it at the 25-year-old, hitting him in the head. That same suspect then chucked a plastic crate at the other victim and drop-kicked him to the ground, while a second suspect punched the 47-year-old victim in the face. More punches were then leveled on the 25-year-old, who was then hit in the head with the plastic crate. The beatings of both victims continued for a time until the trio of suspects stole the older victim's wallet and they all ran off. Both victims were taken to a hospital for lacerations to their heads and pain and bruising from the beatings, but they are expected to be okay. And next we have advocates, electeds, and candidates. They celebrate the historic gains for women heading to the New York City Council. A historic expected majority of women likely to fill city council seats in January gathered at a press conference, pledging to bring a culture of mutual support and a commitment to underrepresented constituents to the legislative body. They were joined by current and former elected officials, advocates, and others who have been part of the years-long effort to bring the 51-seat council, where there are currently 14 women members, to a greater gender balance. The cohort of council nominees offers a glimpse at a city council that is more fully representative of New Yorkers and include an unprecedented number of women of color, who make up of 86% of the women candidates heading to the general election. That group, including the council's likely first Korean American woman, Julie Wan of District 26 and Linda Lee of District 23. A first Muslim woman, Shahana Hanif of District 39. And the first openly queer black woman, Crystal Hudson of District 35 and Christian Richardson Jordan of District 9, though her race is headed to recount. Among others first, like Lynn Showman, likely to be the first ever openly gay Jewish lesbian in the city council. The group also includes a number of immigrants and daughters of immigrants, and according to a press release, the next council is likely to have 11 mothers, giving it a critical perspective that is important to every New Yorker. The candidates often face tough roads to victory, not only many competitive electoral races, but sexism, discouragement, and other barriers to entry that 21 and 21 and other organizations on hand Tuesday seek to knock down. The current and future elected officials, including Mark Viverito and New York Attorney General Letitia James, a former city council member herself, spoke again and again at the press conference of facing discouragement and resistance along their ways. I was told over and over that it would be tougher for me to win, said Hanif. We've been told so many times to sit down, fall back, it's not your time, said Vanessa Gibson, a current council member co-chairing the Women's Caucus, who actually will likely be the first woman and first black woman to serve as Bronx Borough president. Optimism ran high, and many speakers tried to put things into perspective. We are going to get the job done on gender equity and pay parity and maternal health care and access to affordable housing. Not only that, they're going to build economic stability across the city of New York, said Gibson. We have no choice. We have been given this incredible responsibility, ladies, and I don't want you to take it lightly. There are little girls out there looking at us and watching us. And you know what we have to do? We have to represent for them and for everyone else in the city. Attorney General James closed out the press conference with rousing words for advice for the future lawmakers, stating, "Don't be afraid, don't be quiet, be rude. There's nothing wrong with being rude," she said, "because women who are polite never make history." Very interesting perspective. But let's move forward. The New York City mayoral race results to be finalized next week as the latest numbers show narrower gap. So Eric Adams' lead in New York City's Democratic mayoral primary race was a very slim one. The latest unofficial results from the Board of Elections show, as of Tuesday, the Brooklyn Borough President held less than 1% lead over former Sanitation Department Commissioner Catherine Garcia. That's about 7,000 votes ahead of Garcia's ranked choice voting numbers. The vote tally will be finalized next week, but election officials say that they have only 55 ballots to count. And Adams has already declared victory last week when he was leading by 8,426 votes and is likely to officially become the Democratic Party nominee for mayor next week. But meanwhile, Adams, Garcia, and Maya Wiley have all filed lawsuits earlier this month seeking the right to review the ranked choice tally. But finally, the race between the former police officer and Republican Party primary winner, Curtis Sliwa, has begun to take shape, with the two candidates both promising to be tough on crime. While overall crime has been down, the number of gun violence across the 5 boroughs have been rising. So Sliwa, the head of the Guardian Angels, which is a non-profit organization of unarmed crime prevention, wants to hire more police and criticized Adams on Tuesday following his meeting on crime with President Joe Biden at the White House. Quote, "The President of the United States has now said for a third time to New York City, please use it to hire police," Sliwa said. That's referring to Biden's recently announced new efforts to stop the violence, which included encouraging cities to invest some of their COVID-19 relief funds into policing and pushing alternative crime reduction steps. Adams, he has a different plan for those federal funds than his Republican counterpart. In an appearance on the ABC's The View Tuesday, the borough president said he will use the money to move officers from desk duty and deploy them to the streets. Says, "I'm going to put in place plainclothes anti-gun unit to do what's called precision policing, to go after those known individuals who are carrying guns and using them," Adams said. "Crime is going to destroy our economic recovery. We're going to lose our high-income earners because they don't feel safe. We're going to lose the multi-billion-dollar industry of tourism because we're watching people shot in Times Square, and we're going to lose it in our transit system," Adams stated. Well, that is that news, yes. And next, what do we have? Judge pauses New York City's push to evict homeless from hotels. A federal judge on Tuesday halted New York City's push to move 8,000 homeless New Yorkers from hotels and into shelters. The ruling comes after the Legal Aid Society filed a motion accusing the Department of Homeless Services of violating the rights of people with medical and mental health problems. DHS is now temporarily blocked from moving anyone with a health condition that might qualify for a waiver to avoid the shelter system, petitioners stated. DHS allegedly failed to perform required health screenings, which potentially endangered homeless people with special needs. Today's decision affirms that the city rushed the moves of homeless New Yorkers from safe placements in hotels back to crowded shelters without meeting its obligations, endangering the lives of New York's most vulnerable residents. That was stated by the Legal Aid Society, Josh Goldstein, and Jennifer and Block partner Dawn Smalls. They stated that in a statement. That was just last Tuesday. And they also say that the ruling will require the DHS to temporarily stop moving about 5,000 people still being housed in 37 emergency hotel shelters back into the city's congregate shelter system. According to the advocates, some 3,000 people that were staying in 23 hotels during the pandemic have already been moved. And let's see what else we have. We're going to move on outside of New York. San Francisco rapper 41 sexually assaults woman at Las Vegas strip hotels, causing such horrific injuries that she needed surgery. A San Francisco area rapper has been charged with brutally raping and beating a woman at a Las Vegas hotel, where she woke up after the attack to find blood everywhere and later had to undergo surgery for her injuries. Suspect Sky Brandlin, 41, who is a convicted sex offender, was jailed last month in Nevada, stemming from the incident at the area hotel on June 1st. But the arrest report was just released by the authorities on Tuesday. Branklin remained at the Clark County Jail on $1 million as of Wednesday. He faces 2 counts of sexual assault, 1 count of sexual assault resulting in substantial bodily harm, 1 count of battery with intent to commit sexual assault, and 1 count of coercion sexually motivated. Police were notified and interviewed the woman who told them that she had met Branklin, whom she knew only as Sky, at the High Limit Lounge at the Aerie Hotel on the Las Vegas Strip. The rapper ordered some tequila shots, and his date said she blacked out. The next thing she remembered was feeling severe pain and finding Branklin on top of her and sexually assaulting her in a room as she begged him to stop. That's according to the report. The victim also stated that she told the detectives Branklin told her to shut up and punched her several times until she lost consciousness. When the victim later woke up, she said Branklin was trying to force himself into her mouth. According to the document, investigators obtained surveillance video that actually showed Branklin forcing the victim to drink by pulling her head back and pouring liquid down her throat, then grabbing her by the neck and pushing her inside an elevator. Police interviewed the security at the hotel who had Branklin's California's driver's license on file. Detectives learned that in the course of the investigation that Branklin was convicted in 2009 of rape by force of fear in California. He was released from prison in 2013 and ordered to register as a sex offender. What we're going to do is go into a quick commercial break. You're watching the Good Looking News on Millennium TV 24. I'm Kim Seabrook. We'll be right back. And welcome back to Millennium TV 24, where we have next in Arizona Valley. In the Valley, police arrest 40 child sex crime suspects as part of multi-agency sting. A multi-agency stings targeting sexual predators in the Valley resulted in the arrest of 40 people on a variety of child sex crime charges, authorities stated on Tuesday. The suspects allegedly solicited on broker deals for various sex acts with children in response to ads placed by undercover detectives on websites commonly sought out by suspects seeking illegal sex acts. That's according to the Tempe Police Department. They released that information to us. And the police department worked with police departments from Phoenix, Mesa, and Scottsdale, as well as Homeland Security investigations, Federal Bureau of Investigations, and the Attorney General's Office on Operation Behind the Mask. Operations of this type are routinely conducted, with a similar operation earlier this year resulting in the arrest of 34 suspects. The ages of those arrested in the sting range from 20 to 64, and that's according to the release. And next we have in Texas, a man was arrested on charges that he voted in the 2020 Democratic primary while on parole. He could face as much as 20 years in prison. Rogers, now 62, debated leaving as he exited a polling center at Texas Southern University after midnight on March 4th. But I said to myself, nah, don't do that. It was a setup for me to walk away, but I said, no, I'm going to do that. More than a year later, Rogers was arrested on those charges that he voted in last year's Democratic primary while on parole. Under the Texas law, it is illegal for a felon to knowingly vote while still serving a sentence, including parole. Doing so is a second-degree felony punishable with a minimum of 2 years and a maximum of 20 years in prison in at least 20 states. Rogers would not be a crime. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, who ordered the arrest, defended the charges on social media Friday night, tweeting, "Hervis is a felon, rightly barred from voting under tax law. I prosecute voter fraud everywhere we find it." But Rogers' lawyer and civil rights advocates argue that Rogers was not aware that he was ineligible to vote, meaning he should not be charged with knowingly committing fraud. His willingness to stand in line for 6 hours and submit to a cable news interview proves it, they said. "He's really devastated," said Andre Segura, the legal director for the ACLU of Texas and one of Rogers' lawyers. "He does not want to go back to jail." Critics also questioned the timing of Rogers' arrest last Wednesday, a day before the Texas legislature convened for a special session to consider new voting restrictions that Democrats blocked in May. The legislation, one of the most far-reaching election proposals in the country, would, among other things, enact new criminal penalties for mistakes such as errors on mail ballots. Enacting voter restrictions in the name of improving election security has become a nationwide rallying cry for Republicans who have pushed measures to limit voting in dozens of state legislatures. There is no evidence that widespread fraud tainted the 2020 election. Paxton's office did not respond to a request for comment, but he has regularly championed his tough stance on voting fraud. Hervis Rogers was so intent on casting a ballot in last year's presidential primary that he waited 6 hours to vote. Paxton is under investigation himself last month because the State Bar of Texas announced it would examine whether Paxton's efforts to overturn the 2020 election results in Michigan, Georgia, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania amounted to professional misconduct. And in politics, we have the Democrats announced sweeping $3.5 trillion infrastructure reconciliation plan. State Majority Leader Chuck Schumer and Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders, the chair of the Senate Budget Committee, announced a $3.5 trillion deal on their infrastructure reconciliation package late Tuesday. The deal is the first step to beginning the reconciliation process, which Democrats hope will allow them to bypass a certain GOP filibuster and pass the plan on the party line vote. The package includes an array of Democratic priorities that face near unanimous Republican opposition, including billions for child care, climate change, and other forms of so-called human infrastructure. Schumer and Sanders said in a joint press conference this last Tuesday, "We are very proud of this plan. We know that we have a long road to go. If we pass this, this is the most profound change to help American families and generations." In addition to the human infrastructure provisions Democrats sought, but the bill will also include money for Medicare to include dental, vision, and hearing coverage. The expansions were a key goal for progressive, and Schumer endorsed them in June. Others floated provisions include 2 years of free community college, paid leave, and boost towards the child tax credit, which Biden extended for a year in the American Rescue Plan. And next, nearly 2/3 of Republicans oppose Biden's door-to-door vaccine push. The majority of voters support President Biden's plan to send vaccine promoters door-to-door, but nearly 2/3 of Republicans oppose the plan, underscoring a partisan divide over federal efforts to push the shots as the fast-moving Delta variant launches into unvaccinated persons. A Morning Consult political poll released Wednesday says 54% of voters support the door-to-door idea and 39% oppose to it. But 65% of Republicans oppose the plan, while 8 in 10 Democrats support it. Among independents, 47% and 42 oppose it. The polling divide reflects the debate that erupted after President Biden announced he would push for workplace vaccine clinics and send local partners into neighborhoods to increase uptake. Slightly less than half of the U.S. population is fully vaccinated, and there have been alarming outbreaks driven by the Delta variant first detected in India. South Carolina Governor Henry McMaster directed his team to prevent door-to-door knocking, and Missouri Governor Mike Parsons said he feared the door knockers would include federal agents, prompting a rebuke from the White House press Secretary Jen Psaki, who also said that the efforts involve community leaders, and ignorance around the vaccines is literally killing people. A recent Kaiser Family Foundation analysis found relatively similar uptake in April between counties that voted for Mr. Biden versus those who backed former President Donald Trump, but the gap has widened. Roughly 47% of residents in Biden counties are vaccinated versus 35% in Trump counties. I don't see why does it matter whether they're Democrat or Republican, but that's politics for you, right? So next we're going to move on into Texas Senate. They passed a Republican-backed voting bill after Dems flee to block the final vote. The Texas Senate passed a Republican-backed voting bill after Democratic House members fled the state in order to block a final House vote. Senators voted 18-4 along party lines to approve the legislation. 8 Senate Democrats announced that they too have fled to Washington, D.C. on Monday, with a 9th expected to arrive Monday evening. However, with 22 out of 31 members present, the Senate kept a quorum and was able to pass the measure. The bill is about making it both easy to vote and harder to cheat. Republican State Senator Brian Hughes, who authored the bill, told reporters Hughes said criticism of the bill stemmed from a horrible, misleading, forced national debate coming out of Washington. State Democrats have accused Republicans of attempting to suppress voting rights. Texas Senate Democrats decided to take matters into their own hands in order to secure the voting rights of Texans and work with our partners at the federal level to pass voting rights legislation that would rein in discriminatory voter suppression laws and unfair redistricting practices. The 9 senators who fled to Washington stated that in a statement, and the bill itself aims to mandate that the voters write their driver's license or other identification number on absentee ballots, ban state officials from sending out unsolicited mail-in ballots, and bans 24-hour and drive-in voting. Initially, the bill limited early voting on Sundays before elections to begin at 1 p.m., a provision Democrats claim was intended to curtail souls to the polls, voting drives for black churchgoers. However, the provision was struck from the legislation just last month. But House Democrats walked out of a legislative session last month to deny a quorum for Republicans to advance the bill. After Democrats fled the state on Sunday, Governor Greg Abbott, he threatened to arrest the lawmakers upon their return to Texas. Once they step up back into the state, they will be arrested and brought back to the Capitol, and we will be conducting business, said Abbott. Yeah, what's our next story? Inflation surged to 5.4% in June, and biggest jump since the 2008. The Consumer Price Index, the majority inflation metric, surged by 5.4% on the year through June. This is representing the largest year-over-year increase since 2008, according to data released Tuesday by the Department of Labor. The jump exceeded many financial firms and economics predictions. For example, economics at Goldman Sachs expected only a 5.1% increase from the prior year, up from 5% the prior month. The increase was largely driven by price hikes in the used car and truck market, accounting for over a third of the increase. The Labor Department said, and Federal Reserve and elected officials have been expected inflation to moderate as the supply and demand disequilibriums in the average consumer basket rectify now that the pandemic is dwindling. They suggested that the production bottlenecks and supply squeezes are largely to blame for the upticks, which they claim will resolve over time rather than contribute to sustained inflation. If inflation persists, but wages do not move up in lockstep with it, an effective tax will be imposed on the consumer, reducing the length a dollar can be stretched to pay for goods and for services. To curb inflation, the Fed has a few but limited weapons in its arsenal. One instrument at its disposal is to raise rates to prevent the economy from overheating, but that carries with it the risk of adversely affecting the stock market and other asset classes. But what we're going to do is go right into a break right now. My name is Kim Seabrook. You are watching the Good Looking News on Millennium TV 24, and we'll be right back.
Millennium TV, bridging communities worldwide. We broadcast diverse international content from Europe, Asia, Africa, and now right here in the USA. Watch us via Roku on your smart TV. Submit your own content to 1530entertainmentllc@gmail.com. Download the Millennium TV app from the App Store to stream our shows anywhere, anytime. Millennium TV.
Welcome back to Millennium TV 24 News. And in other news, we have the NBA 2K22 launches in September. I know my son is going to be happy, amongst other young men and older men. They launch September 10th for consoles and PCs. The new publisher 2K Games and developer Visual Concepts announced NBA 2K22 will launch for the Xbox Series X, the S, the PlayStation 5, Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and the PC. On September 10th, NBA 2K22 in North America will let players purchase a special version of the standard edition that features 6-time WNBA All-Star and WNBA champion Candace Parker on the cover. That's nice. They're going to have a woman. Okay. This version will be exclusive to GameStop and EB Games. NBA All-Star Luka Doncic is the cover athlete for the standard edition, and cross-gen and digital bundle. But Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Dirk Nowitzki, and Kevin Durant will feature on the cover of the NBA's 75th anniversary edition. The game in Japan will players purchase a special version of the standard edition that features the first Japanese player to be drafted in the first round in 2019 and the first Japanese player to reach the NBA playoffs, Washington Wizards player Rui Hachimura. And last but not least, we have community news. Today at 4 p.m., please, today at 4 p.m., as I mentioned in the beginning of my news segment, there's so much gun violence going on, but there are so many organizations who are out there every single day putting out the word, reaching out to the community, trying to get this resolved. Like their Guns Down, Life Up is one of them. SOS is another one. This event today is put by Bronx Works, where actually a family member of mine, Nellie, works, and she's going to be out there, who knows the young 13-year-old who was killed on 187th and Prospect. They're putting the Stop the Violence Peace March together. This is also from Vanessa Gibson as well, who is a part of this. So many people are out there. Go there today, 4 o'clock. You still have time if you're watching us live right now. 4 o'clock, 187th and Prospect in the Bronx. That's going to be held exactly where the 13-year-old Javion Elliott was recently shot and killed. And on Sunday, they have limited merch. So join on July 18th for the Unity Bike Tour. It's called Miles for Women, as they partner with Packer and Strictly Bicycles to raise money and awareness for the My Power Foundation and their dedicated efforts to help families in need. Also, proceeds will go to Sienna House, which is for survivors of domestic violence. The 12-mile bike ride will begin at Strictly Cycling at the Hudson's Yards in New York City. So again, the ride will begin at Strictly Cycling at the Hudson Yards in New York City, and it's going to finish off at Strictly Bicycles in Fort Lee, New Jersey. Food and music will follow, along with some special merchandise for sale and a surprise live raffle to further help support the cause. So for further inquiries, please contact events at packershoes.com, or you can go on IG and follow Girls Only NY and hit them up, and they also have a link in their bio to register. And Police Athletic League summer program, they have a fitness, nutrition, and basketball clinics on 124th Street in Lenox, started July 12th through August 19th from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Thursday. Again, it's already started all the way until August 19th, 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Thursday, ages 5 to 17, the basketball clinic. So for more information, this is from the PAL. Email them at sports@palnyc.net. And if you want some entertainment, you want to listen to some music, and you on July 17th from 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. is a free event. Free event at Rumsey Playfield in Central Park, which is home of the summer stage. It will be Jizza of Wu-Tang Clan, Funk Master Flex, and DJ J Ronin. So go there, enjoy yourself. Make sure to participate in these events. Be a part of the community. Don't say there's nothing ever to do if you're not out there actually doing it and getting the resources that are available to help one another stay strong and build and spread love. This is Kim Seabrook. You are watching the Good Looking News, and I thank you so much for tuning in on Millennium TV 24. Make sure to download the apps on your iPhone, your Androids, whichever phone you have. Download the app. You can watch us on Roku, Amazon Fire Stick, Apple TV, and any smart TV. You can also download the app. So please stay tuned as we continue to spread good news for you on Millennium TV 24. Thank you. Wednesday, according to a statement from the country's interim prime minister, who called the killing a hateful, inhumane, and barbaric act. First Lady Martine Moyes was shot in the overnight attack and hospitalized. Interim Premier Claude Joseph said, even before the assassination, Haiti had